Hey everyone, it's Maeve. Today I'm going to be doing my 150, which is now 250 subscriber celebration Q&A video. I decided that I wanted to do this in a more relaxed, chill environment. I'm going to try to do the least amount of edits as possible, besides maybe adding pictures here and there of certain things that I talk about that I might not have physically to show. So this might be a bit chatty and it might show you guys a little of my quirks that I usually edit out, but I want to be a little more transparent on my channel and I really want to just have fun with this video because I'm really excited about how many questions I got and I'm just super excited to have a chatty video with you guys. So without further ado, I have my list of questions. I got a lot. The first question is, do you like the Beatles, as in the band? And yes, I do. And it says, if you do, who's your favorite? So I love the Beatles. I grew up on the Beatles. I have always loved Ringo the best, even when I was a lot younger. I'm not sure why, but he's just always been my favorite. And just for fun, I wanted to tell you guys my favorite Beatles song, and that is Hey Jude. It's just my favorite. I love that song. It plays in my mind randomly and it's just a favorite. So the next question is, do you have cats or any type of pet? So I do have one outside cat. His name is Nitro and we got him as a kitten. He was feral. His mom got hit by a car and we had to basically teach him how to be okay being around people. And when he was around like 2 or 3, he snuck outside and never wanted to come back inside. So he's an outside cat. He comes back to eat, but he basically lives outside. I will post a picture of him here so you guys can see. And then I also have 2 dogs. I have a Chihuahua named Monkeys and a Chihuahua Chinese crested mix named Alice. She's my support animal. And then I did have a ball python named Frankie. Unfortunately, he passed away earlier this year and I'm still really sad about it. So those are all of my pets. The next question is, what's a series or a few that regardless of the numbers of times you've read it, you love it just as much as it was the first time? Just as much as the first time you read it. And I have a lot of these, and so I have a stack over here. So the first one I've talked about on my channel a million times, that's the Greatcoat series by Sebastian de Castell. It's one that I can read over and over and over and over, and I love it. So the next, I should say 2 series because these are really similar, but the Wayward Children series and the Murderbot Diaries series, these are novellas and I could read and reread these over and over. I love both of them so much. So those are 2 more. Harry Potter, love Harry Potter, would reread it and rewatch the movies a million times. It's just such a fun and sort of comforting read for me. That's all I'm going to say about it because I don't want controversy. And then the last series is the Anne of Green Gables series. I really love this series. I highly recommend, if you love the first book in the series, read the rest. They are all so good and I want more people to read more than just the first one. But that is my last for that question. Next, what is a genre you have never read but would like to try? So I've talked about this a little bit. I really want to start reading Westerns. 2 years ago, I started trying romance. I'm still figuring out what I like in romance and what I don't. This year, I started reading more horror and again, still figuring out what I like and what I don't. And next year, I want to start reading Westerns. And I have 3 that I'm going to start with: Lonesome Dove, True Grit, and The Sisters Brothers. Those are my 3 Westerns I'm going to start with. If you guys have any Western recommendations, let me know and I will add them to my list. The next question is, if you had to dress up for Halloween as a character from a book, who or what would it be? And I feel really bad because I'm sure this question was meant to be answered before Halloween and then life happened and I haven't been filming or posting or anything. But I would love to dress up as the Witch King of Angmar from Lord of the Rings. Like, his armor that they did in the movies is just fantastic. I think it's so cool. I think it would be so cool to dress up like that. Might sound weird, but yeah, that's what, if I had like unlimited money or whatever, that's who I would dress up as. Next question is, what was the book that made you feel like a reader? And for this, I'm going to say The Hobbit. So I grew up with my dad reading us The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and The Chronicles of Narnia, and that was like our bedtime stories. And I think the first time that I read this by myself without like my dad reading it to me was really when I felt like I'm a reader now, like I can read this book and I know what's going on and everything like that. And so, yeah, this is the book that made me feel like a reader. The next question is, who is your least favorite author and why? And I have been thinking about this for a few days now, and I don't think I have a least favorite author. Like, none really come to mind. I know there's authors that I don't really care to even try their books because of like the genre or the like tropes that they have in their books. But I don't think I have a least favorite author, so I don't know. Sorry, I don't have one. The next question is, what is your choice if you could have any X-Men power? And I would choose Nightcrawler's teleportation. I think teleportation is one of the best superpowers ever, and I want it so bad. Just like I could go anywhere, just poof and go. It would be so cool. But yeah, that's my pick for that. Which celebrity is most likely to be a lizard person from the TV show V? So I have not seen V. I have never heard of it. I literally had to look it up because I was like, I don't know. So I have no idea. I've never seen it, so I don't know. Favorite country song. So my favorite country song, I don't listen to a ton of country, but I do listen to some, and I do like the country I listen to, obviously, because that's why I listen to it. Anyways, but Watching You by Rodney Atkins. I love that song. It makes me cry every single time I listen to it, and I'm not a huge crier, but I love that song. It's just, yeah, that's my favorite. I got a lot of questions about like favorite foods and drinks and stuff, so I'm gonna wait until towards the end to answer all my food and drink questions. So I'm skipping the next question, and it says, what is your favorite non-booktube YouTube channel? So my favorite non-booktube channel on YouTube is Lazy Key, and it is a Chinese like village life vlog channel. She doesn't post anymore. She hasn't posted in like 3 years, but I can rewatch her old videos over and over and over. They're just so like calm and comforting and beautiful, and I will have that channel linked down below. Again, she doesn't post anymore. She doesn't upload anymore, but her videos are just stunning, and I recommend. What's a book that you loved or connected with when you really didn't expect to? And for this, I chose Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, I think is how you pronounce it. This is a book that my dad bought for me. I had no idea what it was about or anything. Like, I didn't know that it had like won prizes or the author had won prizes or anything like that. I just went into this book completely blind based on my dad's recommendation, and I really enjoyed it. Besides one phrase that was repeated a few too many times for me. And I'm not sure if I should say it on here. I'm not going to say it. I will put it in my description down below, and you can read the phrase that bothered me. But other than that, I really liked this book, and it was one that I was not expecting to like. So yes. Oop, lost my place. Let's see. The next question is, what do you do for a living? So I work from home. I'm not going to tell you guys exactly what I do for work because I feel like that's a little too personal for me to share, but I work from home for a living. So the next question is a little bit long. So 1 to 3 movies, 1 to 3 TV shows that you like and that you think say something about your taste. And also, does it align with your taste in books, or is it completely different? Like, you read horror. So for example, you read horror, but you only watch cozy cartoons. So my top 3 favorite movies are Labyrinth, Fight Club, and The Fifth Element, which completely align with my reading. It's fantasy, not speculative fiction, satirical fiction. I can't think of what that's called. And then sci-fi. So those fit perfectly into what I read. And then TV shows, Dark Angel, canceled, hate that it was canceled, love that show. Firefly, canceled, hate that it was canceled, love that show. And Criminal Minds. And I would say that Dark Angel and Firefly, since they're both sci-fi shows, definitely again fit into my reading. Criminal Minds is, I feel like if you had like a book genre to go with it, it would be more like horror or psychological or whatever, which is not something that I read very much previous to like this year and maybe a little bit last year. So I feel like it still fits, but it wouldn't have fit previous to this year. The next question is also a really long question, and I might have a long answer to it as well. But it says, how do you compare the quality of the books you read from established publishing houses with self-published books? Do you fear that maybe too much is now being published, or is inclusivity and warm welcome such a core value that all should always be welcome? I don't have an easy answer to this, so I would welcome your insights. It is perhaps a pickle. So now that I got through that question, I have to grab some books so that I can talk about this. Let's see what it's more. Let me just take forever grabbing books, deciding which ones I want to grab. So these two books are indie published books that I have read either recently or reread. And I think, and this is a traditionally published book, I think one of the first things that we notice when we pick up an indie or self-pub book is the quality of the materials that the book is made with. So this is not something that I'm going to be able to like really show very much, but you can tell just by feeling the books themselves, turning the actual pages in the books, that these are self-pub books and this is traditionally published. Again, just because of the materials that they're made out of. Also, if you look at the back of indie pubbed books, they also have just kind of a different look than a traditionally published book. So that's the first thing I think that you notice about traditional or indie pub versus traditionally published books. I think that regardless of and I think that is just because there's less money that's going into the actual publishing of the book because it's indie or self-published. Because it's indie or self-published. So to answer the quality, I think so my answer for the quality question, at least for the like physical book itself, I think that they're not as nice as a traditionally published book, but they're not so bad that you would worry about, like pages falling out when you read it too many times or whatever. If you're talking about quality as in like the writing, the editing, the story, the uniqueness, etc., I think that some indie published books are far more unique, interesting, I think indie published books can be far more interesting and unique compared to traditionally published books because they have more options of what they can do when they're not being pigeonholed into what is currently popular and what publishing companies are looking for right now that's going to make the most profit. So in that sense, I think that indie and self-published books are maybe better quality. Well, or maybe better in the sense that they're not like every book you have read a million, billion, trillion times over. When it comes to editing, obviously, there are not as great edits in indie or self-pub books because you don't have a traditional editor all of the time. Sometimes they do hire editors to go through and do edits on these books, but they're not as thorough. At the same time, I would argue that a lot of the traditionally published books nowadays, we're seeing more and more poor edits of books, books that are way too long or have grammatical errors, or just their edits are just as bad, if not worse, than indie or self-pub books. And I know that that's a concern when people are like, oh, I don't want to pick up an indie book because it's going to have all of these errors and it's going to be not great to read, all of those mistakes or whatever. But it's like, you're already reading that in traditionally published books. Sorry, I dropped my questions. Do I fear that maybe too much is being published? I don't think I have any fear about too much being published. I think that books are books and there's always going to be an audience for everything. And yeah, like I don't think too much is being published. I think that we get tired of the same tropes because a publishing company will see that vampires are popular right now, and so we'll get an oversaturation of vampire books. But I don't think that that is a bad thing in the long run. I think it's nice to, after the hype is gone, go back and pick up all of these, vampire books that we might not have wanted to read when vampires were overhyped or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I like books, and so it's weird to be like, oh, we need less books published. I think more indie pub books need to be picked up traditionally so that they can get those, really good quality edits and materials for their printing of their books. But again, back to the quality, I think that it's so cool that indie pub books have some of the best covers. Like the cover art on indie pub books are so cool. And when you compare them to like traditionally published books, I think my biggest disappointment between when a book was indie published and the cover changed when it was traditionally published is Dowry of Blood. I'll put up the pictures up here. I think that the indie pub self-pub cover is so much more just stunning, and the traditionally pub cover is just boring and ugly. And that's just me personally. But yeah, I think inclusivity is great. I think we need more inclusivity, and going back to publishing, I think they need to have more inclusivity. And yeah, I think that I am rambling way too much about this. Basically, I think more people should give indie and self-pub books a try, regardless of the quality of materials that are used or the quality of edits, because as we have seen in traditionally published books, the edits are getting almost equally as unfortunate as some of the indie books that we pick up. And indie pub and self-pub books need more recognition. They need more people talking about them. So very long-winded answer. I will probably edit this down a little bit because I had a lot of pauses. So sorry about that. I need a drink. So my next question is, what other hobbies do you have other than reading? How much time would you say you spend average reading a week? So my other hobbies other than reading, I love writing. I love drawing. I love being outdoors in general. I would say hiking, but even just going on a walk outside, it doesn't have to be, an elevated walk. I don't have to have a specific destination to go to. I just like being outside. I also sew. I do want to get into quilting. I think that would be really fun. And I would love to get into gardening. That's something that I've wanted to do for years. I have a garden area in my backyard, and there haven't been any plants in it besides weeds for years. So someday I will hopefully be a gardener. Oh, and the second part of that question was, how much time do you spend average reading a week? So because I have bipolar and my moods fluctuate, it really changes week per week. I have weeks where I do not read at all. And then I think a good week, I would say I read between like 20 or 30 hours in a week. But yeah, anywhere between 0 and 30 hours is my average reading per week. If you were to write a book, would it be fiction or nonfiction? So I feel like I answered this in a recent video, but I don't remember if I did or not. So I have started writing a lot of books throughout the years. I started writing when I was around 11 or 12, like writing stories. And I've never finished anything. I have a lot of starts and middles and no endings. But I'm currently writing a book. It's a fantasy with found family, with a lot of mental health rep and disability rep and LGBTQIA characters that mostly don't die. And I'm hoping that I will finish my first draft next year when I have more time writing. And I might be posting a little more about my writing journey next year, but I don't know. We'll see. And maybe you guys can let me know if you would want to see something like that. But yeah, if I wrote a book, it would definitely be fiction. I am not smart enough to write nonfiction, and my life is not exciting enough to write something about myself. So my next question is, I know in one of your videos you said you like Firefly. Who's your favorite character? So I love Firefly to the point that I picked up some of the like books or whatever. And yeah, they're not as good as the series, but I love it enough that I just want more content in general. But my two favorite characters are Shepherd Book. I love Shepherd. I just said it. He's a favorite. I love him. And Jane. Jane is like the comic relief that I need. And also there's just such a journey with him in the series that I absolutely love. So yeah, I couldn't pick just one. Those are my two favorite characters. And I know the person who asked this, his favorite is Shepherd as well. Yes, Shepherd is a great character. I love Shepherd. Next question, favorite cover arts from some of your favorite books? Ooh, actually, I'm going to skip this one. I'll get back to it. So next, what kind of music are you into? I think this was mentioned because I was wearing a Guns N' Roses shirt at the time. Or I've worn one in one of my videos, but I know that people hate this. I like almost everything. There isn't a genre that I have found that there's nothing in that genre that I like. There are definitely pieces of music in every genre that I don't care for. Like, there's a lot of rap that I don't like, but there's a lot of rap that I do like. There's a lot of country that I don't care for, but there's a lot of country that I really enjoy. Currently, what I have been listening to the most is instrumental covers of music, just like any type of music, but instrumental covers for them. And I don't know, I've just been really enjoying that in general. Sometimes you just want instrumental music, or at least I do. So let's get into our food questions. So I had, what is your comfort food or drink? If you could only eat one candy for the rest of your life, what is it? And favorite guilty food pleasure, which I'm assuming was supposed to be favorite guilty pleasure food. So my comfort food is anything made out of potatoes. I love potatoes. It's such a comfort thing for me. So yes, potato anything or anything with potatoes. Comfort drink would be chai tea. I really love chai tea. In general, any combination of chai tea, it's a good one. One candy to eat for the rest of my life. These gummies. I'm addicted to these. They're so good. They're Tajín gummy bears. I love sour candy. I love gummy candy. This is a combination of those two things, and it's my new favorite. And then favorite guilty pleasure food, pastries, baked goods. I love pastries and I love baked goods. And unfortunately, I don't eat gluten anymore because of health reasons. And I'm really sad about it, but I do have cheat days where I'll eat pastries anyways. because yeah, that's my guilty pleasure food. So yeah. And then all of the last questions are based around like favorite books or favorite authors and favorite cover art from your favorite books. So I'm just going to go and show you guys a million billion of my favorite books and favorite authors. And that's why I have stacks everywhere and my shelves are a mess. So let's start with some favorite covers since I have them right here. The covers for Adeline Grace's like Belladonna and Foxglove and Wisteria, I think. These ones specifically, the UK covers, I just think are so beautiful. I love them. These covers for Mike Brooks' Black Coast, God King Chronicles books. Again, beautiful. Love the colors. Natural History of Dragons. For me, like anatomical images are the same as like good maps. I love these kinds of drawings and pieces of art. Then I have The Sea of Rust and Day Zero by C. Robert Cargill. These are two of my favorite sci-fi books. Again, just really beautiful covers, really stunning colors. I love vintage books with these like images. I don't know how they did this, but it's like this is its own piece of paper that they've like glued on that has these really beautiful illustrations on the front, and then they have gold foil. I love vintage books like this. I have another one that's from the same collection. It's Heidi, but that book is literally falling apart, so I'm not going to pull it down because I don't touch it because I'm really scared that it will completely fall apart. Alex North's covers, at least for this series, I haven't really liked his more recent covers, but I don't know, just black, white, gold, really simplistic, but you have like the image within the image. I think they're so cool. Going back to the like maps and anatomical sketches, Winter's Promise, these covers, just the detail on it, it's so pretty. I could go on and on and on forever about beautiful covers. So I'm going to go into my favorite, let's see, my favorite books in general, I think. Let me grab them from all over the place. Most every book that I have been talking about throughout this whole video is a favorite book because I don't keep books on my shelves. Once I've read a book, I decide if it's an all-time favorite. If it's not an all-time favorite, it leaves my shelves. So every book that I talk about, every book that I hold up, it's a favorite. So yeah. One of my favorite sci-fi novels, Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. This is by Becky Chambers. I also love her Robot and Monk duology. I do not own it because I want it in paperback. I am not really a huge hardback fan unless it's like vintage classics. Those are the ones that I like in hardback. But this is probably one of my favorite sci-fi, besides the ones I've already shown you. Two of my favorite indie self-pub books, Emerald of the Sea by Kimberly Pearl. This has 2 books out right now. I need to go pick up the second one. She is a local author and one of my friends, and so I need to pick one up and just haven't yet. And then this is a recent read for me, Voice of War by Zach Argyle. I really enjoyed this. It is a trilogy. It is complete. I need to read the other 2 books and pick them up. This is, I would say, like a classic. I think it's considered like a children's fantasy, but I feel like reading it as an adult, it is still so good. It has so many like deep, thought-provoking things in it. Again, in my opinion, but that is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This has a new like yellow cover that I don't really care for. This is the cover that I saw when I first read it as a child, and so I rebought it in this cover specifically because I like it. This is the genre that I cannot think of, but I mentioned it as one of my favorite movies because it is one of my favorite movies, but it's also one of my favorite books. Satirical fiction, I think is what it's called. Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. Yeah, this is my favorite of his books. I've read a few of his others, and they just do not compare in my mind. Favorite historical fiction, Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. I have read her Handmaid's Tale books. I love this book more. Favorite fairy tale retelling, Lost Boy by Christina Henry. And this is a origin story for Captain Hook. I really, really, really love this book. Favorite horror, I think this is considered horror and psychological thriller. But I'm just going to say it's horror because I don't read a lot of horror. But Shutter Island by Dennis Lehane. I really need to read more of his works because I love this book and I also love the movie. It's one of the most perfect adaptations I have ever seen. Highly recommend both. And then, oh, before I get to my nonfiction, my favorite romance, now I'm going to blank on the title of it, Grace Draven's Radiance. I will put in a picture because I don't physically have it with me right now. I lent it to a friend. That is my current favorite romance out of all of the romance that I have tried so far. It's so good. Highly recommend it. Yeah. Okay. Nonfiction. Science and Spiritual Practices by Rupert Sheldrake. It is exactly what it sounds like. I really love this. Highly recommend it. One of my favorite nonfictions. All the Living and the Dead by Haley Campbell. This follows a woman who just basically goes and interviews all of the people that work with death in any capacity. And it's brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Do Nothing by Celeste Headley. This is, I think, it would be considered self-help, but I really enjoyed this. It's not telling you to just be lazy and literally do nothing. It talks about what you put your energy into and why you should avoid putting your energy into things that might not benefit you. Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan. I always want to say Callahan. There's her name. This is about a woman who developed a mental illness. They couldn't figure out what it was. She went through all different kinds of treatments and how all of those treatments affected her life. You end up finding out that she has bipolar, which I have. And it's a brilliant book. People should read it. And then last for my nonfiction, A Short History of Nearly Everything. That glare is atrocious. By Bill Bryson. The title is right here. It's very tiny. Pet peeve of mine. I hate it when the author's name is bigger than the title. That drives me crazy. But this is a really good book for anybody who wants just a teaspoon serving of all of these different things that have happened throughout our world's history. So, I think the last thing was my favorite authors, which you've seen a bunch of them, but I think currently my favorites are Becky Chambers, Shannon McGuire, aka Mira Grant, Martha Wells, Sebastian de Castell, and that's all I can think of right now. I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch of favorite authors. But anyways, that is everything that you guys asked me. I hope this was fun and not too terribly long. I'm sorry, I'm right at the part of the day when the sun is just not in a great place, so I keep scooting myself back. I did want to thank everybody who asked me questions. So Ellen Made Book Club, Hannah's Books, Faceless Book Reviews, Jack is Bored, Laura A. Grace, Random Reading Pathways, A Poet Reads to Write, Beyond Books, Kevin Toll Reads, Dustin Neely, Book Lover Laura, Hide and Read, Odd Odie Online, Kevin's Novel Advice, the GKBC, Reading Ideas, and Xanadu Castle. Thank you guys so much for asking me questions that I could answer. And sorry, I feel like I'm just sinking, trying to not be directly in the sun. I hope you guys liked this. If you have any other questions, let me know down in the comments down below. My favorite thing about YouTube is talking to you guys in your comments. And my second favorite thing about YouTube is watching your videos. So if you have a YouTube channel, I know that I have a lot of new subscribers. please comment down below if you have a YouTube channel. I would love to watch your channel. I would love to watch your videos and chat with you about the books that you're reading. It's just, it literally is the best thing in my opinion. And yeah, thank you guys for 250 subscribers. I'm still like not able to process the fact that I have grown this much so quickly. My goal for the end of 2024 was 150 subscribers, and I thought I was just going to make it, and to surpass it as much as I have is mind-boggling. I cannot thank you guys enough. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye. Or is it inclusivity and warm welcome with a, or is it inclusivity and warm welcome such, or is inclusivity and warm welcome such a core value that all should be, or is it inclusive, or is it inclusive? I'm adding these to my bloopers because I cannot read this sentence for the life of me. Or is inclusive, I said it right the first time.